or afternoon, depending on where you might be joining us from today. My name is Melissa Bauer, and I'm the Sustainability Program Manager here at the Pet Sustainability Coalition. We're just right on 11 o'clock our time. So I'm just going to mute for just a second. We're going to give people a couple minutes to join, but really excited about our webinar this morning about palm oil. So excited to have you guys here with us. Thanks for joining, and I'll be back in just a minute or two. Good morning again. For those of us just joining, my name is Melissa Bauer. I am the Sustainability Program Manager here at the Pet Sustainability Coalition. We're going to get started in just a minute with our webinar on sustainable palm oil. I'm so excited about this topic. This is something I really geek out on. Our webinar today is going to be the first in our Summer of Sustainable Sourcing series that we're doing this summer. Next month in July, we'll be with the Marine Stewardship Council and American Seafood. So super excited about that on the 23rd. Hope you can join us. And then in September, we'll be talking to the Roundtable on Sustainable Natural Rubber, which is also going to be really great. Also going to be joined by West Paw on that call as well. So thanks so much for joining us this morning or this afternoon, wherever you're calling in from. Just a little bit of quick background. We do this webinar series about once a month. Or about once every other month, always looking for topics from our members. So if there's ever something you want us to chat about, please don't hesitate, drop me a line. We've got Cameron from the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil today, and I'm going to hand it over to him just a minute. But I'll be keeping an eye on that chat box today. So if you have any questions, and we're going to leave some time at the end for questions as well. So thank you so much, Cameron, for joining us this morning or this afternoon where you are.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you all of you for joining to learn a little bit more about the RSPO and the Certified Sustainable Palm Oil Supply Chain. So I'm going to go over real briefly today how you as people in the pet food industry can make sure that your supply chain does not contribute to deforestation or harm of any wildlife as well. Again, my name is Cameron Plese. I am the Deputy Director of the U.S. operations for the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil. And before we get started today, I want to introduce you to my original inspiration for being involved in palm oil, and likely one of the many reasons why all of you are here as well, and why a lot of your customers have a lot of concerns about palm oil that's in your supply chains. So this here, oh, sorry, can't get that, there we go. So this is Bess. Bess is an orangutan from Phoenix, Arizona, where I am from. Bess is 40 years old and was actually born in the Phoenix, Arizona Zoo because Bess's father actually had to leave the Borneo and was rescued due to some unsustainable growth of different commodities that were there. I don't remember exactly if palm oil was the exact one, but while I was at the exhibit and met Bess for the first time when I was a child, there was information there about different commodity growths in the area and the effect it had on orangutans. So it really inspired me as a young child, and now as an adult, I am here working with palm oil as well to try to make sure practices like this don't lead to other orangutans and other animals being harmed and having to flee their natural habitats. But again, this is only one of the many issues surrounding palm oil. There are a lot of issues around labor and human rights as well, which I'll get to a little bit later, that we address through our certification standard. But this is an issue I'm sure is very near and dear to your hearts and a lot of your customers as well, being a customer base that are all animal lovers. So what is palm oil and how is it involved in the pet food industry? And so palm oil is the most prominent of all vegetable oils. It makes up about 35% of global vegetable oils, while actually only taking up 10% of the land for vegetable oil crops. The reason why it's so popular is that it is a very cheap vegetable oil. It's also incredibly versatile and very high yielding. It actually has yields about 4 to 10 times higher than any of the other alternatives. And so it's one of the most widely produced as a result. And as we continue seeing a lot of growth in vegetable oil demand, we are seeing growth in the oil palm and a lot of the other commodities as well associated with vegetable oils. And because it is so versatile, you see it in a lot of different ingredients. I compiled a list here of some of the most common that you see in the pet food industry, whether it's coming from palm oil or palm kernel oil. So you can see here that it's going to be in a lot of pet foods. It's even in things like pet supplements. It can be in shampoos. It can be in toothpaste for your pets. If you have any ingredients that involve peanut butter, it's often one of the main ingredients in peanut butter as well. Or even if you're involved with any livestock, it's very common for animal feed for there to be a mix of some palm kernel in the animal feed as well. It's used as a butter, fat, and for milk replacers, and also even being used for adhesives now for a lot of different products. So palm oil can be in a lot of places in your supply chain. Sometimes you might not even be fully aware of it. So I really encourage all of you to investigate a lot of the ingredients in all of your products and try to figure out where there might be some palm oil. You can work with your suppliers as well to get a little bit more in-depth information on that. But this is a list that I was able to compile through some of my research. Some of you might even be aware of some other ones that are in your products that I might not be aware of. And I would love to, at the end of this, hear a little bit more information about some of those, and we can help you to discover how we can make sure that those ingredients that you're sourcing are sustainably sourced and don't cause harm to wildlife in different regions, and similar to Bess, my friend that got me involved in all this to begin with. So now that we know a little bit more about palm oil, though, I want to shift gears and talk about what makes certified sustainable palm oil different than the other palm oil that we often hear a lot of stories about, and go a little bit more in depth into why there are some challenges with palm oil in general. So you can see here on the map, the region that you see in that bar is the area where palm oil, or where the oil palm can be grown. It's generally right around the equator, which are some of the most biodiverse regions in the entire world. Simultaneously, they are also some of the poorest regions with some of the most quickly developing countries in the world. So they are areas looking for economic growth. There are a lot of commodities grown there, not just the oil palm, but a lot of other commodities that lead to some similar risks. Because they are some lower income countries that are quickly developing, there are also some risks for human rights and labor abuses and other unethical practices if they aren't properly monitored, which is one of the main efforts that we have as the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, and what led us to start in 2004. In 2004, these 5 companies came together because they realized that there were a lot of challenges being faced in the palm oil industry. And as it was continuing to grow, they wanted to make sure they found a way to address a lot of these issues head on. So in 2004, the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil began, and we had our very first standard, which we call our principles and criteria that all the growers follow, that began in 2007. We review it every 5 years to make sure we can strengthen it and continue to build on our successes and learn from other things that we had going along the way as well. And we just passed our most recent standard in 2018. So this is a little bit of what our standard covers. It is one of the most in-depth standards compared to a lot of the other certification standards out there. We don't only address the planetary and environmental issues that I began talking about, but we also go into a lot of issues of sustainable livelihoods, make sure labor practices are being adhered to, human rights as well. We work a lot with the United Nations and the ILO to help set our standard, and also try to make sure that we're keeping in mind the prosperity of the local people and making sure that there are ethical business practices and really high levels of transparency as well. And we involve all of the stakeholders in this. We have everybody from the oil palm growers, NGOs, processors, traders, banks and investors, retailers, and consumer goods manufacturers like yourselves. Everybody that becomes an RSPO member adheres to following our principles and criteria. And we even have an idea that we recently started speaking about, the new principles and criteria called our shared responsibilities. So if the principles and criteria are focusing more on the grower side, we make sure everybody even further downstream, the consumer goods manufacturers, are sharing the responsibility and trying to make sure we can transform this industry to make sustainable palm oil the norm. So in the US and Canada, the region that I work in, out of our 4,200 members that we now have for the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, we now in the US are the largest country by membership, which is part of why I'm sure a lot of you are here today. You've probably been hearing a lot from a lot of your customers and suppliers about this. We're seeing a lot of growth in the United States. We, compared to 2006, when we only had 239 members, we now have 519 in the US alone and 80 in Canada. So out of our 4,200 global members, about 600 of them make up the US and Canada. We are the fastest growing and having fully certified supply chains and supply chain facilities. So that'll help to make sure that a lot of your ingredients that you're sourcing can be supplied sustainably because we do have a lot of the ingredient suppliers in the US certified here. Some of the key drivers for this have been a lot of the corporate 2020 deadlines, which many of you have, trying to make sure that you can have your entire supply chain deforestation free by 2020. A lot of companies are kind of feeling the pressure that as 2020 comes a little bit closer. And our standard, the new standard that we passed in 2018, has very strict no deforestation, no planting of peat, and no exploitation policies in place and guidelines in there. So if you are an RSPO member and your suppliers are adhering to the principles and criteria and they are RSPO certified, you can make sure that you can meet all of your 2020 deadlines related to palm oil by sourcing through the RSPO certified supply chain. And another big reason why we're seeing a lot of growth in palm oil in this market, especially in the US and North America, is the ban on trans fats and partially hydrogenated oils. Palm oil is, because it's very versatile, has been found to be a great replacement for a lot of the trans fats and PHOs in a lot of products. So we have seen a huge growth in this market in palm oil coming in, and that's helped to lead to a lot of certified supply chains within the North American market. So what does it mean to have a certified supply chain with the RSPO? We do have 4 different supply chains that we certify, and this is an opportunity for you to communicate to your customer base that you're sourcing palm oil sustainably and supporting sustainable and ethical economic growth without harming natural ecosystems and habitats. So the 4 different supply chains that we offer, you can see in this graphic here, it goes from, there's some flexibility at the bottom of it and higher levels of assurance at the top. We do have what we call the book and claim system, or RSPO credits. This is where, similar to if you're with your electricity bill, if you're buying green energy, when you pay for green energy credits, you're not necessarily getting the electricity from a solar panel, but you're able to contribute to the growth of sustainable electricity around your region. Similar with the book and claim system, if you're not able to find an ingredient that does have RSPO certified sustainable palm oil in it, you can buy your conventional ingredients and you can purchase credits to cover your volumes. What this does is make sure that growers in the regions where we're certifying growth make sure that they can still get that premium and that reward for growing sustainably. So it's a very important way to make sure you're encouraging and supporting the continued growth of certified sustainable palm oil. Next, we have the mass balance supply chain. This is where you'll have a mix of certified sustainable palm oil with some conventional material as well. It is a supply chain that we do monitor, and it does also really help to contribute to the growth of sustainable palm oil. And with this, you can use the trademark to show your customers that it does actually contain certified sustainable material in the product. And then the 2 other ones that we have here are the segregated and identity preserved. These are going to have 100% certified sustainable material in it. And with the segregated, it's going to come from multiple supply sources that will be mixed during the process of getting to your product, but they are all going to be certified, whereas identity preserved comes from one single traceable mill and supply base. And after you become a member, then you're able to go through the certification process, and you can get connected to other certified suppliers, and then you can use this trademark, which is completely free as a member and helps you to communicate all of that to your customer base. And if you have any questions about how to follow up or even become a member to begin with, we'll share this presentation with you later, or I can share some information with you. But there's a link here on the top right to start your application. The application does take 6 to 8 weeks to begin with to become an RSPO member. And then from there, we can go through the steps after that of becoming fully supply chain certified. And you can always work with me directly. I'm happy to help walk you through the whole process. And I can help you to make sure we go through the process smoothly, and you can use the trademark as well. I can help introduce you to all of that. We do have 2 of us here in the North American market, Dan Stretche and myself. My information is here, and I'm always available for you to contact and reach out to if you have any questions at all.